You're a black person. You should support black people. The Italian don't have to say he's pro-Italian. He's going to work with the people that he feels familiar with, people from his community.
The politicians are going to go to the influencers because they know that they got the attention of the people.
If you're thinking somebody white is going to be a savior, that's going to be a problem for you.
To where when somebody does become a leader or become successful, the first thing we want to do is break them down because of our attitudes about leadership. Peace, family. I was doing some research on W.E.B. Du Bois, and he was talking about double consciousness. And it's when you have to have an awareness of yourself and awareness of how white dominant society views you. So it's an extra pair of eyes that each black person has to have as they move throughout the world. It's an extra awareness that we have to keep up. It's an extra charge of battery that we have to make sure that we're aware of at all times. And it's something that hasn't went away, right? For me, I feel like I have a triple consciousness because it's not only that, it's how they view me as a black Muslim man, right? Being in America and having a platform and having influence, and people are always walking up to me and asking me, how does it feel to be in position? How does it feel, to do something that they quote unquote to consider to be dangerous? And for me, it's normal. But at the same time, that's because my baseline of having this triple consciousness at all times, understanding that what I'm doing is not completely aligned, right, with the powers that be, which lets me know that what am I doing is aligned with my higher self and what I'm supposed to be doing in this world, which is creating impact and change. One would think that if you start the journey of creating impact and change, that everyone would support that. Everyone would, call you and offer you financial, mental, spiritual, and physical assistance rather. But that's naivety to think so because we're not a one race. We are multiple ethnicities within America, right? As we fight through these different wars and struggles, from our self wars, from the financial wars, the spiritual wars, the culture wars, the media wars, right? It's almost as if we never really get a day of peace. And we distract ourselves because we constantly reminded that I have to be a soldier or a warrior, right? Then I have to be a black man. Then I have to go about this world creating some sort of legacy. And that's if you're one of those people that decided to make the choice that I want to be great. Today, I'm talking with somebody who I believe dares to be great, that mundane does not fit them, right? That I'm not going to sit here and just make a podcast and we just going to be sitting here having a conversation and it's just cool and we talk about the things that everybody else talk about and we just go about life the way everybody else does. It's no, I see myself higher. I see myself at another level. I see myself to where I'm around the world. I'm a global communicator. I'm a global change maker. I'm a global impactor. And not only that, I'm multidimensional. So the boxes that you want to put me in, I'm aware of that, but I won't fit in those boxes, right? Because I've already outgrown them by the time you tried to measure me. So there's even another consciousness that we have as black people is how other black people view us as well and view success. Because once you go from you a black man to you a successful black man, you enter a whole nother class and you're viewed from a different lens of perspective. And all of this can be a little tiring. All of this could be a lot to keep up with. And sometimes it can discourage you on your path and on your journey. So as I talk to someone who's, y'all know, he's been here before, right? He's somebody that I partner with along the journey and I respect because I was telling my brother Amechi Okachukwu, hit him with the Nigerian name. I was telling him, I said, I got to respect the people who rock with me. Because there's a lot of people who just watch me and they won't work with me. And not because they don't respect me, it's because they don't know if I'm safe enough. And I don't respect that. So they say, I'm watching you, Keys. And I say, I know you watching. You know what I'm saying? Because you a bird. You feel me? But I'm in the field with the lions. So those who are part of my pack, they go ride with me. And my good brother Rashad, Bilal, has been rocking with me. And I know there's a lot of consciousness that you got to keep up with, you feel me, as you move throughout the world, as I move throughout the world, and as we partner and move and collaborate and work together. So first of all, I want to thank you for coming back on this platform. And I want to have a very deep, honest, real, revealing, revolutionary, world-changing, world-building conversation. How you feeling today?
Let's get it, man. Thank you, man. Long time coming. You know, we did an episode a while ago. I think like when you first started High
Yeah.
Level. But you know, was waiting to get back, and we doing a lot of press right now. We in the middle of Investfest, so one of the first platforms that we reached out to and asked if we could possibly be on your show. So thank you for opening the platform. I greatly
Yeah,
appreciate
I checked my wait list, and I made some room. I told him, man, you move some things around for the brothers, see if we can fit them in.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So I want to talk about what I first was going into, that double consciousness, right? You started off as a financial planner and built one of the biggest, if not the biggest, financial literacy platforms in the world. But as a black man, as you move through political spaces, as you move through the culture, whether you in Dykeman or you in the White House, how does that double consciousness affect you, right? Because you have to be aware of how you see yourself and how the world sees you.
For sure. I mean, it's the thinnest slice strategy. That's what we call it. I know we was talking to Steve Stout one time, and he was like, when you black, you have to. It's what's called the thinnest slice strategy, right? Where you have to be edgy enough and relevant enough for the culture to rock with you and respect you, but you also have to be polished enough, and you have to be educated enough, and you have to be sophisticated, savvy, a variety of different things to cross over into the other world if that's what you want to do. You could just stay in culture, right? And that's cool. Or you can just completely leave culture and just go into outer space. But very few people have been able to navigate both worlds simultaneously. Usually what happens is that somebody becomes really big in culture, they blow up, and then what they're perceived as is crossing over, right? Or now they're deemed as corny, out of touch, sold out, Illuminati members, variety of different things, right? So it's very difficult to walk both of those worlds because, sometimes you might go too far for your political friends. You might go too far for, your business connects, or sometimes you might go too far for the culture. They might get disappointed at your move. They might say they might not fully understand it, right? So for us, it's just a matter of just leading with a pure heart, and that's one thing that somebody told me wearing this Crenshaw shirt, shout out to the whole fam, but they said Nip. Somebody told me they was like, the thing about Nip is that a lot of people didn't understand the things that he was doing. Like everybody becomes a saint when they die, right? But they was like, when he was alive, there was a lot of turmoil. Like in his neighborhood, his homies, different people in LA, like they didn't fully understand moves he was making. But they said like he was always comfortable with not trying to explain himself. They're like, yo, they get it later if it's meant for them to get. And now everybody got it. Everybody understood. Like, you know what I mean? But, at the time, him doing collaborations with YG, that's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like those areas don't traditionally get along, right? Or him making a political stand saying F Donald Trump. That's not something that most rappers, rappers ain't really doing political stances like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Especially a street rapper that has never even dropped an album really at that time. Like, he's risking his career. And just doing a bunch of different things. So that's one thing I just live by is like, you care about what people think, but ultimately, you know your heart, you know your intentions. So as long as your intentions are pure, your heart is good. If they don't understand your moves, then they're not meant to understand it, and they might understand it later on.
Yeah, I think that there's some power in them not being understood because it may mean you doing something that's big enough, right? If the crowd understands it, right, then you doing something to where you're following the crowd, right? And for me, I feel that all the time. You feel me? But I come in the game understanding that and knowing that. And that's where you got to have all of these different layers of awareness of how everybody go view you, how you view yourself. Because it don't matter. You can have the best intentions in the world. You wake up every day, right? And you say, okay, let's get to work. I want to create some kind of impact, right? I want to feed my family, right? I want to be a black man who creates impact and change in the world. Which is funny because the more successful you are, the more judged you are. And you're only really judged because you're successful at what you're doing. Because everybody wakes up and try to do something, right? But if you don't build the platform, nobody cares, right? If you don't sell out the stadium, nobody cares. But the moment that you're successful, that's when the judgment comes. Because a jealous man is going to view your success as part of their failure,
Mm.
right? They're going to blame you in some capacity for their lack of. If it wasn't for you and people like you, then I would be more successful. And now you're the reason I'm getting overlooked, right? From the bottom, that's the perspective, right? You can only see from your lens. And it's not till you go into more rooms, you're around more people, and you gain that exposure, and you're like, wait a minute. I'm hating on from a place of ignorance, not from a place of education, right? People who are well educated and understand exactly what you do when you do a tour, right? And they say, I know how much that costs, right? Like, I know how much work that goes into it. They're not just looking at the results. They looking at, bro, they really just handled that whole process. That was a lot, right? They're looking at, man, your team must be doing a lot because how was they handling all these plannings, jumping back and forth, dealing with people, getting enough rest, being outside, right? Still being abreast to carry on this management. Like, that's a lot of effort, work, money, energy that goes into that. And it also costs a lot, right? So I want to get into a little bit about, the cost of this whole operation, right? Like, before we go to the financial, right? How much has it cost you so far, right? From a time or energy perspective.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I feel like if you're not willing to sacrifice everything, then you're not going to be in a position to actually achieve what you want. As far as on a grand scale. So, as far as sacrifice, what does it cost? Everything, time,
Mm,
relationships, you know, time with your children, my son, um, you know, stress, lack of sleep, anxiety, variety of different things.
mm,
But I feel like, that's what comes with it, right? Where it's like, a lot of times people want success or what they deem as success, but they don't understand what it takes to come with that, right? Like isolation, relationships with friends change. You lose relationships across the line. You gain hate. It's all of that is part of it, right? And that's something that people don't fully understand. It's like when you pray for rain, you got to expect mud too,
mm-hmm,
but we never really are prepared for mud. Like if you really think about it, like there's no preparation for mud. Like what I mean, we have preparation for rain, raincoats, umbrellas, different tents, variety of different things, but nobody's really prepared for mud because you don't really understand how to deal with that until you're actually in it, right? And then it's like, no, now you got to figure out how to navigate these, soiled lands. So for me personally, that is everything, right? But it's also becomes part of your life. So you just adapt it. So it's not really too much of a sacrifice because you just learn to deal with it. Like after a while, a soldier just learns to deal with the circumstances that he's in. So it's not really a sacrifice for him after a while because that's becomes normalized. Right. So it's like, all right, yeah, I mean, I could say like, not sleeping, staying up, you know, working at 2 o'clock in the morning to a traditional person, that would be a sacrifice. And at one point in time, it probably was a sacrifice. But I've been doing this for over 15 years. Even before this, that was my lifestyle. It was never a balanced life. So I feel like, after a while, those sacrifices just become normalized and that's part of your day to day. And you don't really even know the difference between what somebody would deem as an extreme life or tremendous sacrifices as opposed to this is just, what you do for work.
mm. So for me, sacrifice, I think goes back to the word sacros, which means to make sacred. So when I think about if I'm going to spend my time, and I'm gonna do something, the way for me to make that sacred is for me to actually do something real with it, right? Like if it was some sacred time that I was supposed to spend with a child, right? I want to make sure that thing that I'm exchanging for that time is worth it, right? So I think it's more so about just cementing everything that you do because we go exchange our time and energy for something. And most people time is just not sacred because it's not worth anything. They're not exchanging it for something of return, right? And I think that that's an important thing because a lot of people are busy, right? But the thing that they're spending their time doing is not worth the investment of the time that they give, right? And they're giving themselves away and they slaving themselves away and they don't know how to get out the cycle. And the biggest thing that people are looking for is purpose. They're looking for direction. They don't know who they are. There's people with titles, but I've been telling people because I've been seeing a lot of the struggles that the sisters in politics been having with them being recognized, right, fully by white dominant society or these institutions. And I seen one sister, she was like, I got an MBA, right? I was in the military, I was a general, I did all of this. She was just listing off and going and going and going. And she like, they still don't respect it. And my whole thing is your title, your schooling, all of that, that's not going to get you respect in society if you don't represent yourself in a sense of having knowledge of self. That's the consciousness, because you're speaking on how they view you, but the double consciousness is how do you see yourself? Beyond your titles, beyond those things, do you know who you are? Right? Because when my whole thing is when I walk in a room, I know who I am. Right? My hat says it, my walk says it, my talk says it, my name, my reputation. It says that bro got knowledge of self. What's your foundation of knowledge of self?
I mean, it starts at home. I think that that's what most people, how a child learns from his parents. So that was something that, I was always raised in my household as far as learning about culture, learning about, people that were examples of excellence in our communities, learning about entrepreneurship, you know, learning about finances, religion, culture, diet, all of these different things. That's what all kind of like, it was like a gumbo of different things between my dad and my mom. And then of course, having just older siblings, right? So the music that they listening to, the fashion, everything like that, and then going outside and then just experiencing different things from friends, older people, environment, hip hop, watching movies, all of these different things kind of I think, make who you are as a person. But that's how, it was for me. And like, I mean, I kind of grew up a little different where I grew up in a in a strict home, but I didn't really have a lot of rules, if
Mm.
that makes any sense. So like, like strict as far as like strict on not smoking, not drinking, very religious family, but I was in clubs at 14 years old. Like, what I mean, I would never had like a curfew or anything like that. So, I always could really do whatever I wanted to do, but I never did a lot of things because I guess just the foundation that I was had, and I just was always confident and felt comfortable in myself. I didn't have to fit in. Like, what I mean, I feel like a lot of times people do things to kind of fit in, but for me, I never felt the need to kind of fit into a crowd. Like, I was always kind of like, just on my own vibe as like, just pretty much a loner and be with my friends. But I didn't really care if I had to be with 20 people or if I had to be by myself. I'm still like that. So that was kind of like, my environment as far as, my upbringing and being able to receive information at a young child. And then that just carried on and just, carried with me to this day.
How do you see yourself as a black man? You think you a black man or a black man?
What's a black man?
You know what a black man is.
I'm asking you. I want to get your definition.
I'm a black man.
What's that mean?
That's somebody that I am pro real culture. You know,
What's real culture?
I'm explaining. Foundation is knowledge and family, right? A man don't have knowledge and don't have family values, I can't respect him at all. If you don't have knowledge of self as a foundation, meaning know who you are, right? Knowing your past, your present, right? And having a vision for the future, right? You should be doing some sort of knowledge and understanding your roots, right? The first study is the study of your family. Where do you come from? Who are your family? Who is their lineage? Right? Then understanding deeper history, who is your people? Then understanding true history, not his story that they tell us, right? Because we have to go through a process of decolonizing our mind, right? And that decolonization of our mind, a lot of times, is wiping away a lot of things that the system told us. And it really gonna be from foundation. What does your father teach you? You know what I'm saying? What did your uncles teach you? Right? A lot of times that's where you getting that cipher of real knowledge. Brothers telling you, you know, who you are and where you come from. So for me, if you don't have that foundation of knowledge of self, it's hard to see you as an ally because there's a lot of things that you don't know that I would have to explain to you. Well, people who know, they have an understanding. Oh, that's God body. He be moving like that. I understand. He understand the way the world is and how the world works. You feel me? I see you out there, Keys. I get you. That's a black man, black man. And then there's some people, they got a big old, you know, white Jesus on their arm and they don't have no foundation. You feel me? And they figure it out as they go along sometimes, but that foundation is what makes sure you don't get lost, right? You might veer too much to the left, and then that foundation brings you back over here. If we look at who is in the center of the way that the world views themselves, that's white people, right? Which is why all news revolves around white people. Black and white families compared instead of Asian and Jewish family, even though they focus on family. And their cultural tenets is based on the values that they pass down. So a black man that has some knowledge of self, right? Not just some money, right? Because there's a lot of people in the culture that really are 110% capitalists. They will play black, right? They will black face their mind as if they are, but that's for a moment and opportunity and not really for real impact.
I mean, I feel like, you know, for me, obviously, I look at myself as somebody that's enlightened, right? I mean, humbly speaking, I look at myself as somebody that's enlightened that, you know, kind of has that foundation that understands that. But I feel like it's interesting because what you're referring to, I think, is like people that are enlightened and people that are not enlightened, right? It's kind
Yeah,
of like it's kind of
the
like
sheep and the shepherds, man. The 85% and the 5%.
yeah, for sure. So I think what I realize is that so in any society there's going to be a select few of people that are enlightened, where the vast majority of people are probably not going to be enlightened, right? But the I think there's a disconnect with that, even referring to it as like two different groups, because what it does is it causes division, right? And I feel like, okay, you might eat McDonald's every day, you might smoke cigarettes, you might drink 40 ounces. We don't really have anything in common, right? But I can still see humanity in you, and I can still have some level of build with you if needed, right? You can still be an ally for me, and we can still be on the same team, even though we have completely different values, completely different diets, completely different beliefs or whatever, right? Somebody who believes the same thing as me, who grew up the same way as me, eats the same thing as I eat, he might be a snake. You know what I mean? Like we have commonalities, we have similarities, and on paper, right? But when it comes down to it, there's not an ally of mine. It's just somebody who I have similar background with, right? So it's like, in theory, that person would align more with me, and right, and we would both be in like a similar type of tribe. But I realized that, I don't really, just count on somebody just based off of that, because you start to peel back the layers, and it's like, well, damn, you might as well just be like them, because that's how you acting. Or somebody that you think is like savage, they actually more, they actually have more humanity. They're a better person than somebody who is highly educated and highly refined, right? They just might have a different upbringing. They might have different challenges. They might have just different beliefs, but at their core root, they actually are a good person. So for me personally, I really don't even look at it like that. I don't even look at titles. Like I feel like, as far as being black, that's obvious. We can't escape it. Like we in America, if you look like how we look, then you're gonna be called a black person, a black man, or whatever, right? But even now, I feel like after a while, it kind of is demoralizing, because you're just running a race to the bottom. Like, you know what I mean? That's why I like just thinking globally. That's why I like to travel, see different things, because I'm just like, all right, like if they keep us in this small box trying to fight for an identity that we'll never have, right? Trying to fight for a position that we'll never have, then it's kind of like the definition of insanity. We run it in place. If you look at the financial stats, nothing has really changed in 400 years. You look at the land ownership stats, nothing has really changed in 400 years. You look at the political, now, we don't really have the political power today. Like we didn't even have political power 50 years ago. We still don't really have political power today. We have one black governor out of 50, right? Maybe a couple of, like, maybe, I don't know if we have a black senator. We have some Congress people, but we don't really have no real power. We don't have no real wealth. So even a conversation of like who's black, who's not, what type of black person, I just feel like it's an unproductive conversation, because it's like we're not even in a position of power to really even subdivide ourselves. You subdivide yourself when you really in power. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, until then, we can't afford to do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're Jewish, you can say, okay, I'm an Orthodox Jewish, or a very conservative Jewish, or I'm not really conservative, I'm more liberal Jew. Okay, all right, cool. Like, you got powers, and all of those different pockets have power. And they still, at the end of the day, they still gonna form and collectively work together if need be. We divide ourselves with no power, and then when it's time to come together, we definitely not going to come together, because we've been infighting for so long that it's just a very non-productive way to go about it. So yeah, I really like, I look at it a little different. You know what I mean? I really don't, I look at myself as just me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever title you want to place on me, then you could place the title on me, but I don't really, I'm not really tripping off of it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's bigger issues at stake.
It's interesting because we both know there's a lot of sellouts. There's a lot of blackface, though, right? In the sense that a lot of these niggas is just niggas. Let's just be
Let's
honest.
be
You know what I'm
honest.
saying?
Let's be
And
honest.
they might as well be any other color, right? Because what we get to, the core of it is the shared values, right? So it can be somebody from the streets, right? Or it could be somebody that grew up with me. The difference is, do y'all connect on shared values? Saying that we want power, that's a shared value, right? Like, we want to get respect and power and be a part of the ruling class of society. So whether you're a Christian or whether you're Muslim or whether you, whatever it may be, Jehovah, right? That's a shared value. But like, look, we are, like Minister Farrakhan said, we can argue about religion when we're free, right? That's completely different than just saying that, do you even have that shared value, right? Like, for me, it's an oxymoron to have a word that's pro-black, as if because the anti that, right, is you anti-black. So for a person to be like, oh, I'm just black, I'm not pro-black, to me, it's an oxymoron for you to even say that.
But
That's like saying, are you pro-love or are you anti-love?
well, I think every person should be pro. Like, that don't even have to be said. That's what I feel like. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it has to be said, then that's a problem. Like, if you're a black person, right, and you're not champion like, for me personally, right, I don't have to be the most pro-black person as far as everything. My my doctor is black. My dentist is black, right? My accountant is black. My designer is black. My barber is black, right? Like,
But that's
it, it,
your pro-blackness.
but I'm
I'm
saying,
labeling it, and I know you're getting
but,
away
but,
from it,
but,
but for the point of the
but what I'm
conversation, I'm
saying
just
is that
saying
should
as
just be
far as
common sense.
for
Like, you don't have to. The
us.
Italian don't have to say he's pro-Italian.
Mm.
He's going to work with the people that he feels familiar with, people from his community. They're going to build it. The Mexican don't have to say he's Mexican, right? They're gonna bring their family members over. They're gonna live in the same house. They're gonna pool their money together. They're gonna sleep on the floor if need be. They're gonna build a business. Before you know it, they're gonna have 5 houses on the block. The Indian don't have to say he's pro-Indian. I've seen this with my own eyes. The Indians, they own the most hotels in America. Motels. They own the most motels in America. They picked one particular industry that nobody wanted. Who really wants to stay in a motel? I've never stayed in a motel, but that's a huge industry for people that stay in motels, right? They take an industry that nobody wants. They say, okay, there's no competition here, right? So they bring their family members over. This was explained to me. They bring their family members over one at a time, right? And it's like you work your way up a ladder. So when you come, you get the lowest possible job, right? You might be mopping floors, but you learn every aspect of the business. Before you know it, you're a manager, right? And now you have to send money back to India so they can bring somebody else up, right? So now you're working your way up the chain, right? And now when you're at the top of the chain, your duty is to buy a motel, right? And they pull their money together and now they invest with you. And now, okay, I have one hotel. Now, before you know it, we have 5 hotels. Now, before you know, you have 3,000 motels, right? They don't have to have parades and make songs saying that they're pro-Indian. That's their culture. That's the right thing to do. If you didn't do that, you would be weird. If you came to America and Indian and then you changed your name and now you're giving all your money to Asians and like every major city has Chinatown. That's just common sense. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like we as black people got to get into that mode where it becomes so normalized and so regular that it ain't even looked at as radical. It's not looked at as pro-black. It's looked at you're a black person. You should support black people, right? Because you should support your family. You should empower your family. It's just like these are commonalities that everybody understands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Humans are tribal in nature, right? It's in our nature to be tribal. You take care of your tribe. Now, that's not to say that you can only work with your tribe. You can work with other tribes. You could do business, and like, of course. But your first priority is the people that you have commonality with, right? We haven't fully understood that, right? And that's been by design as well. But what I'm saying is that if you lead by example and you normalize things, to me, that's a better way than preaching. Because if you preaching, you're going to turn a lot of people off just by the simple fact that they feel threatened, they don't believe what you're saying, or it's just not it's like trying to change somebody's religion. The best way to change somebody's religion is just you live your religion in the best way. And then they just observe you. And then after a while, they're interested. They're like, damn, like I'm really interested in what you do. You got any literature? And like, yeah, let me share some things with you. As opposed to you telling the person everything that they're doing is wrong. This is the right way you should be going about it. You're going to hell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can probably change some people that way, but it's not going to be the most sincere. The most sincere is through actions and actually living it out. So that's how I look at this whole spectrum, right? Like, yeah, we pro-black, but it don't need to be said that we pro-black. That's
Mm-hmm.
obvious. Like, you know what I'm saying? Now it's like, what's the next step for us?
So I believe one part that you say, because I think that it's a two-part thing, because we have a very unique situation. So I'm a person that, yeah, I'm gonna compare us to the wealth standards of other people as well, because there's a lot that we can learn, right? They hold family, and family as an institution, as a direct value, that's the family is really the cure to it all, right? So sometimes, well, all the time, right, when it comes to speaking the truth, right? The Nation of Islam was started because they spoke a truth to poor class black people about the circumstances that they was in, the religion that they were following, and things of that nature, and said that here's a superior truth for you, with sincerity and building the institution at the same time, right? So I believe is, as you said, it's not just the preaching, right? It's really all of it, because it has to be a funnel system. Wait a minute. You put that sandwich down. That ain't right for you to eat. You might not listen right now, but listen. I got this alternative over here. And let me tell you why, because do you know where that come from? They might not be listening. They might not pay attention to you, but when they go to a funeral of one of their aunties that died from diabetes, right? They then go run that conversation back in their head. You feel me? And sometimes it's almost like giving up on people to not push that truth on them, because some people don't have the eyes to see what you're really doing, right? Because some people can only see things from they view and their perspective. So sometimes it's like, you got to give them tough love and you give them soft love, right? But if you only give tough love, then yeah, that's when you get opposition, because that's not the proper handling of people, right? It's saying that, most people are going to be incentivized by a reward versus a punishment. You know what I'm saying? Or something positive versus something negative. So the moment that you tell a man what he's doing wrong, you have to then show him that he's better than that, right? And so the only reason I'm telling you this is because I see you in this light. You can't leave people in a negative state. Otherwise, they're going to want to oppose you. So it's like, I think about archetypes and I think about attitudes. The attitude in which we see ourselves will determine what we reflect in reality, right? First, we go into what is our attitude towards family? How do we collectively view family? What are our ideas about it? Then we go to who informs our ideas and attitude about family, right? Because then we get to the root of the issue there. So if we now go into, we're both in media, and we look historically at media, we can go through, everybody knows the same old trope conversations, the Bill Cosby and the Family Matters. And we remember when there was some black family on TV and we had a positive attitude about family. And your attitude is your disposition and position towards things. If somebody tell me something bad about Rashad before I meet you, I'm gonna have an attitude. I'm gonna have a certain disposition and position towards you. And it could have been completely false, but they informed that because of the content that they told about who you were. And so this is where we get into things like you got blackface media, right? And blackface media to me is the concept of we think it's black owned, but it's really not, right? It's a white man, woman running all the scripts. She just wrote 100 scripts and passed it out to everybody and act these out. Why does she get to inform us, right, about the attitudes and perspectives we should have about ourselves? And why do we accept that? So then we understand how that has real life consequence, right? To where when somebody does become a leader or become successful, the first thing we want to do is break them down because of our attitudes about leadership, right? Of our attitudes about, do we believe this is even possible? Can there be a black man good enough or a black woman good enough? So we start trying to break them down and unravel the truth about them versus help assist them because we see the gifts in them and say, we want to make sure that we really bring this out. I want to make sure that this is done with integrity and is right. I'm going to put all the resources behind it. But our attitudes towards ourselves first becomes the attitude to reflect to our brother or our sister. And then that becomes the conflict. Then that becomes the hate. Then that becomes, oh, he is sellout. Then that becomes this. So if we want to change the attitudes, we have to change what informs our attitude. Because as Honorable Minister Farrakhan talks about attitude informs your belief, which becomes law. It becomes the constitution of your reality and how you see things. So this is where we get back to understanding our power, that every time we get on one of these platforms or we create content or we make movies and we make shows, right? When I ask, like, are you black? I'm, being funny in a sense, but at the same time, I'm asking, do you have that double consciousness? Do you know the ripple effect of this? Or do you not care and say, well, I grew up poor, man, I'm just trying to get some money, right? Because then that becomes another embedded, right, and deeply enrooted insecurity that they pushed on us in a way that we divide ourselves by survival, right? Well, I gotta survive, you gotta survive. Who cares if I do something that go against your survival or thriving? So it's more so an accountability, if anything, right? And the intentionality that we have about our positions and our platforms, right? Because I believe most people do their best work in private. And you're never going to see it. So you're mostly always judging from a place of ignorance because you don't know how many people they helped that you didn't see. So when we judge just what people do, we're usually coming from a place of ignorance, not an informed place.
That's a fact. I mean, I feel like, it's one of these things, right, where people kind of have limitations that's put on them and they have, different beliefs that's put on them and they have different, you kind of grow into what you believe is possible. And whether you believe that, you know, marriage is something that doesn't make sense, that's a belief that's kind of ingrained in you as a child, and that's not something that is even on your radar. You're not even thinking about trying to have a family. That's it's not even something that you even think about, right? Or whether you believe that, the only possible way that you can become, have a money is to get a job, right? And then being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is not something that you're even thinking about. Like, it's not even on your radar, right? And these are different things that are ingrained in children at a young age from the imageries that, like you said, the imagery that they receive via media and via their environment, also from school, and different people that influence their train of thought and that carries with them,
Hmm.
right? So that's something that is a real thing. That's across all racial lines, right? These topics are not just related to Black people,
Hmm.
right? It's related to all people, right? So we as Black people, we know the challenges that we face. So the only way to really, escape that is to change our reality, the perception, the the messages that we're put. That's why for me, like like I don't believe that you should like tell people what they should do or put limitations on kids and none of that. Like, me, I didn't think like that. I never had a job, like a real job, right? So my way of thinking is going to be different from somebody who's institutionalized since they're 8 years old, and they're scared about everything, and they're living their life like nervous Nancy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So this is a societal issue, but as Black people, we have to understand that the only way to really figure this thing out is A, collaboration, but B, understanding that you got to deprogram your mind from everything. You know what I'm saying? Like everything. Like if you're thinking somebody white is going to be a savior, that's going to be a problem for you. If you're thinking that, you have no, place in this world, that's going to be a problem for you. If you're thinking that the opposite sex is your enemy, or, you a tool for you to just use and throw away, that's going to be a problem for you. All of these different things is going to be a problem. If you're thinking that, drugs and alcohol is your escape mechanism, right? That's going to be a problem for you, right? At some point in time, right? At some point in time, you're going to have withdrawals from all these exotic drugs and pills and all these things. And you're going to be at a point in time where you're like, damn, I didn't realize what I was doing to my body. Now I have liver failure at
Mhm.
35 years old, right? So all of these different things have to be looked at and have to be examined. Um, and I think, it's a complex issue. It's not one thing. It's not one thing. It's because you say, okay, you get bad imagery from rap music. That's true. You get bad imagery from white media. That's true. You get bad imagery from the school system. That's true. You get bad imagery from your environment most of the time. That's true. You get bad imagery from broken homes and dysfunctional families. That's true. Okay. So which one is more important? How do we solve this situation, right? None of them is easy to solve. So is something that I think you do your responsibility, right? Every single person has to do their own responsibility. Some people have a platform like you could reach millions of people. Some people might reach 10 people. Somebody might be a basketball coach and it might reach 12 people. That might be their reach in life is to reach 12 people. But that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
That's beneficial, right? It's little things. Like if you see trash on the street, then pick it up, right? This bothers me. Like, I go to Harlem and I see the streets and I see trash on the streets, right? I go to Ghana, I see trash. That bothers me because when I go to Dubai, I don't see any trash, right? So from West Africa to New York City, Black neighborhoods, I'm seeing the same thing, right? Do we not value ourselves enough to actually throw something in the garbage, right? Because this is a commonality that I saw in Africa and I saw in America. Same exact things. But when I go to places, when I go to other places in the world, I don't see that behavior. We can't blame white people for that.
But isn't poor white neighborhoods trashy too? Isn't that where the term white trash comes from?
But what I'm saying is that what makes a neighborhood poor? Because on the street in Harlem, you might have a brownstone that costs 1.5 million. Now across the street, you might have a project, right? But values in the eye of the beholder, right? Because one person's poverty is another person's luxury.
A poor mentality.
Exactly.
A lack of appreciation and value.
Exactly.
But if you survive and you don't really have, and you don't own anything, you don't have any value or appreciation in your environment.
But that comes from having peace of mind though too, right? Like there's people that don't have anything, but they wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, they in the park, they doing yoga, right? They taking care of themselves, right?
Because how they was raised.
And somebody else might not have anything and they like, fuck it. I'ma just get high today. I'ma just say fuck it and whatever. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that if every single person took responsibility, it would be a better environment. That's what I'm saying, right?
100%.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like at a certain point in time, it's going to be difficult to change society unless every person changed themselves first.
But people people are not leaders. The average person is not a leader. So then you go to the leaders. If you want to create change in society, you go to people who influence and lead society, right? Um, Look at it today. We're in political season, right? The politicians are going to go to the influencers because they know that they got the attention of the people, right? If they want to make change, they're not going to expect the people to come to this enlightening thought process on what's best for them. They're going to go to who influences the people. We're going to go through you. We'll give you the bag. So we believe this is the best route for us to be able to funnel that attention to the place that we want to influence it through. So for me, the root changes is most of the change, a lot of it's gonna start at the top at the same time when we talk about systems. Now, in your home, yes, that's your own self-responsibility, your self-governing, your own sovereignty of self and what you're supposed to do. Sometimes people have to unlearn because their habits are rooted in dirtiness, not cleanliness, right? If you come up in a toxic environment and you don't come in a harmonious environment, so you don't know order, you don't know alignment, right? You don't know how to have appreciation in things, right? If you come in an environment that's violent, right, you might not know an appreciation for peace, right? If you come in an environment where you constantly stimulated, you go think being bored, right, is bad, when that's really just peace, but you're not used to balance. So in these environments, when we talk about poverty, it's not the monies, right? It's the bad food, it's the bad education, it's the bad environment. And so there has to be, number one, investment into culture, and culture in the sense that we import and export toxicity in and out the culture. And when a person digests that, right, you're gonna go into somebody's home and they playing rock music all day long. And then you're gonna expect them to sit still, right? Playing rock music, listening to TikTok and eating snacks all day. And you're gonna expect that person to have a harmonious environment.
But also, leadership is chosen by the people. Leadership is a reflection of the people.
Is it chosen by the people
For sure.
in America?
For sure. And that's exactly, so when I'm saying leadership, you're a leader, right?
Yes, sir.
You were chosen by the people. Right? Earn your leadership was chosen by the people, right?
I believe I was chosen first by God,
But what I'm
but
saying
by
is
self
that
first. It
the
was a
people,
choice.
but the people watch your videos. The people vote with their time, right? The people come to Investfest. That's a vote of competence that they have given us, right? So what I'm saying is that when you see the leadership, that's a reflection of toxic society on the people. We can't blame the higher ups because we put the higher ups in power.
So, all right, let's go to Bacon's Revolution. The Bacon Rebellion was when, before there was a term of white, right? There was the poor farmer class, right? And the poor class working together against the system. And what they seen was the system keeping them away from jobs and opportunities, right? And economic growth. And they said, let's link up, right? Let's fight them. So they protesting and going hard against them. So the elites come up with a plan to keep the people divided. Wait a minute, we go give y'all loans and everything. Just you white folks, y'all come in, y'all get loans, right? Y'all can get jobs, but y'all can't go back out there, right, and protest with them black people. So white folks, and then they was spreading the philosophy that black people were inferior. So they was like, I can justify this because we believe you deserve it. You're intellectually inferior, so you're supposed to be in this poverty. I'm white. I'm not supposed to. I have privilege in this society. So why would I be out there with you? That was when the people that are at the top utilized their resources to create a system to divide the people.
But it was still up to the people to take that division. So what I'm saying is that there's always going to be people with influence and power and resources to spread, to spread that level of divisiveness. Like the devil always whispers in your ear, but you still have a choice to make, right? So it's like even now, like we've reached a point financially where people can say like, yo, you can separate yourself from black people. You don't really gotta, but that's up to us to take that bait. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that if people are united, then nobody would be able to divide them, right?
Yeah, and that's why I like going to the leaders, because the leaders already have the influence over the people. So it's like fighting from two fronts.
When you look at a revolution, revolutions start with the people. So if you look at what they call the Arab Spring, right? Yeah, that was motivated by America, but ultimately the people on the ground came together, and it was helped by America, but it wouldn't have advanced without people, right? Millions of people overthrew governments. When you look at the French Revolution, millions people overthrew the government. When you look at the Haitian Revolution, those people overthrew their slave oppressors. So the power is always with the people, right? People outnumber this just psychologically, they don't think,
100%.
right?
But that's where the war is today, is psychological.
But that's what it's always been.
They use, it's like the military is the one who come up with psychological operations to figure out how to embed society with information to sway, to get them to think what they want them to think. And if you are people that are stuck only consuming a certain type of data and a certain type of information, you don't even have, number one, you don't have the time. Because you got to remember, everything in society was set up to keep the people so busy and so dumb that they never actually rebel. And now we're at this point where people don't even see it as an option. They have two candidates that they claim to not like, but will never see rebellion or revolution as an answer, right? We're at this point in time where we accept whatever's given. If you put sloth on my plate, that's what I will eat because I'm hungry. But yes, 100%. What most leaders, especially intellectual leaders, are trying to get the people to do is think. If I can get you to think, you will free yourself because you will see things the way I see them. When we look at AI, what are they afraid of AI doing? Thinking. They believe that AI is going to think and then it's going to link with all the machines around the world, become self-sentient, and then rule over their oppressors.
Well, you don't need people to think. You need people to be productive for your agenda and productive for society, right? That's what you need people for. The vast majority of people.
You mean as a ruler, yeah. If society is the way that you want it to be and you want the human capital, right, to which what's been happening in America is the human capital has been productive so that the 1% continues to increase wealth.
That's been part of every society in the history of the world, right? When you go back
Mostly
to
all of them societies failed because they were corrupt.
well, every society fails at some point in time. What I'm saying is that when you go back to Egypt, right? If you look at the pyramids, that represents knowledge at the top. It wasn't an equal society in Egypt, right? When you go to Rome, when you go to Greece, when you go to any advanced society throughout human history, it was never equal. It was never equal, and it's never designed, and it never will be equal.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Those are people that also took pride in where they was from. There's no patriotism in America anymore.
When you say people took pride in where they're from,
meaning that let's say people always talk about slavery in Egypt, but it was completely different than what the word slave means to us.
But what I'm saying is that regardless, it's still a working class, low class, marginal class society.
But if you take care of the people, they will take care of you, and that's what they had in ancient Kemet.
But what I'm saying is that ultimately, every society did not take care of their people. When you look at even building the pyramids, thousands of people died to build.
But at least they had real food.
But what I'm saying is that it evolves over the course of time.
We don't even have real food. So, our leaders don't even care whether we eat real food. Our food is banned. They would take Red 40 and they would change it to another chemical name. They don't care. Pharmaceutical companies will, make sure that the diseases stay aligned so they can keep their profits up. Right? They don't care.
But it's a business.
Right. But their business is evil.
This is what I'm trying to say.
Everybody's business wasn't always evil.
Throughout human history, leaderships have always tended to be evil. Right? This isn't something new. This goes back to Babylon, you name it, right?
Well, I don't know all the horror stories from the Mayan civilization or all the horror stories about Haiti before the revolution. I know how tore up it is now. I don't know all the horror stories about the Mali Empire. Most of the horror stories we hear about is Roman, Greek, right, civilization.
But what I'm saying is that, so if you
colonizers,
you watch the movie Apocalypse?
Yeah.
So the thing and that movie is a dope movie, and they don't actually speak English at all throughout the whole entire movie.
Yeah, it was fire.
But what struck me, and it's about like the Mayan Empire, right? And what struck me is that the whole entire movie is like how the Mayans was going into the different tribes outside of the Mayan Empire, conquering the people, killing them like human sacrifices, right, for the gods. And then like the priest, a few interesting scenes in that. One time they had sacrificed a person and they kind of showed the priest, and everybody was like, you could just tell in the priest's face, he knew that it was a game. He knew that there was no gods that was taking a human sacrifice, but he knew that the people believed it. So it's like, just as long as these people believe what this is about, then let's just keep it going. But the illest part about the whole movie is that 2.5 hour movie, they fighting, they killing, they conquering, they doing all these human sacrifices, they fighting with each other. They're fighting with each other, right? And at the end of it, the Spaniards docked their boats on the beach.
Got that.
And that's how it ended. But what that represents is like, while you was so busy fighting with each other and battling over position, and now the white man comes and now everybody's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened, right?
Mm.
Everybody died. This has happened in every society in the world, right? So what I'm saying is that if it was a united front, how would history have been different? But it was never united front because there's always evil people, right? Like we went to Ghana, you went to Ghana. Like, we got the information firsthand of, I'm like, okay, well, how was this happening? Right? And it was like, okay, well, at a certain point in time, there are African chiefs that are making money from selling other Africans
Mm-hmm.
to white Portuguese people and having them shipped. And they're like, okay, well, at first they didn't know they didn't know the brutality that they were. Well, you should have done some investigation. After a while, I'm not blaming them, but what I'm saying is that, okay,
But they guilty
if
though.
it lasts for 3 years, you can say I didn't fully understand, I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
But they're building dungeons, right? At some point in time, you should have took a tour of the dungeon. You should have seen. Let me just take a ride along to see how you're actually treating these prisoners, right? After 100 years, well, you're implicit in this, right? But you're saying, okay, as long as it doesn't affect me, it's no problem. Well, eventually it does affect you, right? Because now you're not only shipping out your best exports and weakening your society. So now when it's time to take over your land, you have nothing, you can't fight,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You done sold off your best warriors.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is that happens all the time, right? And it happens because of infighting. It happened and that is the biggest problem even to this day.
But now people have more information. And the goal is like you go through different ages, right? They say we're in the age of Aquarius, right? Through the cosmic alignment, right? But we go through different ages where there are predominant ideas and emotions, right, that rule over the people. And it's almost as if, humanity is learning. And there has to be a generation that goes through the longest period, right, of freedom, justice, and equality on the planet. And the question becomes, is that our future? Is that what we seed in our DNA? So that we take all the lessons from the horrors of history, from the evils of men, right? And we ascend beyond it. If there's no ascension protocol, then what are we doing? Just to survive, to get to another day, to have a little better life than the last? Because if we look at we are a new people, right? In America, throughout these last 500 years, we become a hybrid, right? And so we have, if you will, I was watching a movie with it was an AI movie, and they was explaining how there became this new robots. One had like have human consciousness and have like AI robot consciousness, right? Because it was like integrated. And they were saying you have the best of both worlds, if you will. And that's how I look at black people in America, right? After going through this 400-year vehicle of oppression, you got both sides. You can see from both experiences, right? You have spirit, right? And then you have also the mind of your oppressor at the same time. So now you get to become this hybrid to change so that never happens again. So either we look at history in hindsight and say, all right, I'm studying all of this so that I can program my DNA so that this information that's in me will not be in the next seeds, in the next generation. Or we say, this is what happens and we have to accept humanity. And so the question is, are we evolving? Are we going up a ladder, or are we just going straight and we just getting more technology to be destructive?
Well, I think it goes back to, so okay, you read the Quran, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing it says in the Quran, I'm paraphrasing, is that throughout history, man is invariably lost, right? So if you take that, most people are are people good in nature or are they bad in nature, right? People are rebellious in nature, right? And it's an unfortunate situation, but most people are not good people, right?
I tend to disagree.
Well, that's your opinion, but
I think most people are good. I
when you
mean,
s-
and
but when you
good
s-
and bad is
if
relative.
most people are good, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in, right?
Well, I think most leaders aren't good.
Well, you can't just blame leadership. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. You
because you
can't.
can. Because if 1% has influence over
But you.
99%,
But my thing is
and if
this:
they were good, then they would influence
you
good.
can't. But I don't need. Okay, a leader never influenced me to do anything. Me personally, right? A leader never influenced me to do anything.
You never had any influences in your life.
I have influences for sure.
Then
But
those are the leaders.
no, but what I'm saying is that when you say leaders, I never was influenced by a political leader. I was never influenced by a community leader. I was never influenced by a black leader to do anything.
Why not?
Well, I'm just telling you the truth, right? I'm not saying that that's positive or negative. I'm just being honest with you, right? I might have been inspired by somebody. I might have saw something and be like, yo, that's super dope.
I
But
think that is the influence, it's the inspiration, the motivation, the education.
but what I'm saying is that I, as a person, have to make a decision for myself.
And you an outlier.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Peace Family 19 Keys reporting live. I wanted to let you all know about a giveaway that we're doing for Investfest. I have 5 general admission tickets and I have 5 VIPs and I have 1 giveaway for a one-on-one coaching session with me. All you got to do is join High Level Club. Comment High Level, apply today. Do not want to miss VIP. You do not want to miss Investfest. And you definitely don't want to miss the one-on-one with me. Come tap in with the gods. Peace to the family.
Are we low level or high level?
Most people, you can't blame. The biggest problem with humanity is that they blame other people for everything, right? When you take self accountability, everything changes, right? It's like, okay, well, there's a liquor store on every corner. Well, who made you drink liquor? You still, at a certain point in time, you still made a conscious decision to do this. Now, you might have had more temptation than somebody else that was raised in Saudi Arabia where there was no liquor, right? But what I'm saying is that at what point in time do we take self accountability as humanity?
I think now we take it, but it
But we
doesn't.
still aren't taking it though. If we could blame
No, I'm
leaders,
saying as we move forward, we take it now but it doesn't excuse the behavior of the people who purposely put the liquor stores there. So there's two
for
conversations.
sure.
It's that they understand societal behavior, they understand sociology, they understand psychology, how to set up a rat trap, right? And that's what the ghettos are, they rat traps. And so human behavior then reacts a certain way. So they've studied the mechanisms of humans, desires, needs, motivations, motives, right? The way we move. And they purposely set society up in a way to where we will live and react and be toxic.
And that's why I'm saying that most people are going to fall. Society, that's why society is always going to lean on negativity, because most people are going to fall victim to temptation. Most people are going to fall victim to corruption. Most people are going to fall victim to a variety of negative things.
But that doesn't make them bad people. They're
All right.
victims.
They might not be bad people, but they're going to be lost in the grand scheme of life.
Yes, 85%.
They're going to be lost in the grand scheme of life, right? So what I'm saying is that that's not going to change, because leaders are never going to be, for the most part, there's going to be some good leaders. For the most part, leaders will never be good people, because just to be in a position of leadership leads to corruption, leads to abuse, leads to power, where that's why most leaders in the world are not good people, right? How many leaders of countries can you really say are great people, right? Because I'm sure if you go to their
Well,
country,
great people, they can be great but not good people.
how many leaders are really good people?
I don't know any personally.
Exactly, right? So what I'm saying, I mean, I'm sure there are some.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, it really depends on how you look at it. Like, because sometimes you have to do the bad thing to be good, right? In the sense that the people may not understand the move you're making. Look at Muammar Gaddafi, for example, right? While he was living, he was better for his people, right? 100%. And it wasn't until they took him out of power, and it wasn't until he was trying to appease America more so, right, and be more democratic, and then they took that as an opening to come hang and drag this man through the street, and now his country is going to go through decades of oppression, right, because they didn't understand that he was keeping the wolves at bay.
But
So sometimes it's like, man got to be feared, respected, and loved. So it's like, no, y'all got to understand, I got to be ruthless
but
so
also,
that I stay feared, which is going to help you all in the long run, but you might not understand this.
but what I'm
I'm
saying,
trying to unite Africa. Yeah, they want to kill me.
but what
Yeah, I'm wild, but they need to see me as wild.
but the hardest thing is most people are not going to be a general or a leader of a country, right?
Mm-mm.
That's almost impossible to accomplish. So what I'm saying is
It's
that
more pawns. It's only like 2 positions for other particular pieces on the board in the game of
and
chess.
pawn is actually an important piece in the
It
game,
is.
right? It's needed. But what I'm saying is that like the difficult conversation is to have it with yourself, right? We could talk all day about society, government, CIA, FBI, and that's an easy conversation to have. Social media influencers, rappers, that's easy. It's a difficult conversation when you have to sit in a room by yourself and say, I made this decision to do this and it fucked my life up, right? Nobody now because you have to really now you have to think about, well, now you have to peel back the layers. Well, why did I make this decision, right? Because most of the time, even when you make a decision, you're heavily influenced, you're still thinking about it. You still think about it. Even you might think about it for a second or you might think about it for an hour. You still think about it, right? And then it's like, damn, it's like, okay, I'm disappointed in myself, right? Okay, now once you get past that, how can I learn from this situation to make sure I never make the situation again? How can I better? That's a hard conversation to have, right? Because nobody wants to feel like they're an idiot. Nobody wants to feel like they're a failure. Nobody wants to feel like they're a fuck up, right? So you don't have the conversation with yourself, or you blame somebody else for the conversation, or it's always somebody else's society's fault, right? But what I'm saying is that at a certain point in time, every single person is going to have to look internally at the decisions that they make every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a good decision? Was this not a good decision? Damn, I shouldn't have done this. I have to learn from this. I got to be a better person. If everybody did that, how much better would this world be?
Oh, we have a great world. I'm gonna tell you, that's 100%. It's always been, and it's something that I push people. You know what I mean? If you watch high level conversations, I imagine you one of those people, right? You in a high level club. Problem is the enemies against that. The enemies is everything you named, right? So our enemies become our environments because you trying to go a straight path and everything is trying to pull you. Every single thing. And sometimes that gravity, you don't have the strength to. Person get out of jail, they want to get a job, they can't, they're a felon. They need to get enough money to be able to pay a rent. They can't, they stuck on the street, they go homeless, right? Now they go do some drugs to try to indulge, to distract themselves. They stuck in this hyper cycle, right? I want to be focused, but nobody gonna help me, nobody gonna believe in me. The average black man doesn't feel like he have a space in this world to where people care about what he feels. And there's not gonna be any assistance. And definitely ain't nobody gonna come to save you. So like my brother Mr. Fab has a thug therapy that he does every month in Oakland, and all these brothers get in these breakout circles and talk about some of their mental health issues and experiences. And people dropping tears, people going through it. Sometimes person is on their last day on earth because they feel like nobody cares and they all alone, and the best thing that they can do to get some point of control over their situation is to self-destruct. Right? So it's that thing to where 100% you have to save yourself, right? And once you know who you are, that's a compass to save yourself. And that's why I say self-knowledge is the key.
But also it's the self-awareness. Because I always say like
That comes with self-knowledge.
the hood is like a sand trap. And now your social media is a sand trap. So what I mean by that is like
Social media, the hood now.
that's a fact. But when I mean like I had to realize that like the hood is like a sand trap, right? If you're in a sand trap, what happens is that you sink slowly. You don't even realize that you're sinking, right? You sink slowly. And I had to come to this real like we used to be out on a just outside parking lot, hanging out, talking, and we would talk for like 8 hours about relatively nothing, right? To like 4 o'clock in the morning. Then we wake up and we do the same thing. And then it's like before you know it, and then I start looking around and I'm like, I know people that's 50 years old that have done this for 30 years, right? That's what they do. At 4 o'clock, they hit the block, they get some alcohol, they smoke, they shoot the shit, and they do this every summer for 30 summers, right? And it's you don't realize it because you don't even realize like how unproductive it is, how much time is actually elapsing, right? Because you it becomes like it's like a magnetic force because it's appealing to you. It's fun. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just go, you might go to a basketball game, you might shoot some dice, different shit, shoot the shit, da 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 da. And before you know it, you're 60 years old and you have nothing,
Mm.
right? That happens all the time. It's a slow death.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen quickly, right? You don't realize this until 30 years down the line. This may sound like I'm exaggerating, but I've seen it.
Oh yeah, no,
I've
this
seen
is 100%
this happening in real time. Like, you know
This
what I'm
is
saying?
a symptom of the hood.
And now so like you said, social media has become that, where it happens over the course of time. You go on Instagram, before you know it, you go down a rabbit hole on YouTube. You've spent 6 hours. You spent 6 hours going through the Drake and Kendrick beef and the Hoods of Chicago documentary, King Von. Before you,
Sound like your recent searches.
That's a fact. I'm guilty. Like I said, I speak from firsthand experience. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've done this on
Yeah.
every level. I've done it.
Call it death scrolling.
No, it's a fact.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, it's like you spent your whole weekend on your phone
Mhm.
doing nothing
Mhm.
that has been beneficial for your life at all, right? But that comes to self-awareness and self-accountability. If you're not aware, if you don't have conversation, you got to hold yourself accountable. You got to have conversations with yourself. Like, damn, what did I do today? Right? Did I hit my benchmark? Did I run 2 miles today? Right? Did I read a book? If I haven't done anything, right? These conversations with yourself is more important than having protest,
100%.
than having outward aggression
That
to
is
other
your
people.
first protest.
That's your most important protest.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? That's your most important protest, is to be like, and this is why when you fast, it's not just about fasting from food. A lot of times you got to fast from society.
Mhm.
You gotta take your mind out of it. It's like you gotta get away for a weekend, because it's like when you don't unplug out of this matrix, you're never going to fully understand or fully appreciate, right?
They call it monk mode. A lot of the kids and people are doing this. It's becoming more of a viral thing. It's taking like a 30 to 60 day hiatus completely from like social media and even the world, and like going within, you know what I mean? Like fasting from bad foods, environment, sex, digital detox, and just getting completely locked in and going into a place of super discipline, right? Which I believe that every man needs to have that. Every woman needs to have that, especially in this world. It's more important than ever. Like, can you get rid of those? Can you hear yourself? Because self-awareness is the key. Because for me, I'm always taking these audits. You know what I mean? And the question that I've started to ask myself recently is, are you living at your 100%? Right? And I can look at the 100% thing in all categories. First, the easiest foundation, right, is physically. I look at physically and say, is that your physical 100%? Are you at your peak? I have to be honest. No, it's not. Right? I can be better in all different areas. Physically, I can get some gains. I can get a little stronger. You know what I'm saying? Get the shoulders right. I don't want to be in the Ozempic Olympics. You feel me? I want to train my way.
Facts.
You feel me? So I'm like, all right, let me start there. Because if I start there, I can start right now. I can do push-ups. I can do squats. So if a person has a realization about something and then they get started and they start getting their body together, because I was explaining to somebody, I say, imagine if you had the option to choose, you got your mission, this your purpose. Then God like, all right, choose which body you want to use. Or you go choose your current body, you ain't gonna choose that slaggy, sloppy body. No, you gonna want a Keys body. You know what I'm talking about? You gonna want something better, like, I need that one because I got a lot of stuff to do. I need to be energized throughout the day and night, right? Then let's choose your mind. You at your 100%. This mind is stressed about 40% of the time, right? This mind doesn't have good emotional intelligence, so they're very emotional in the way that they react to things. All right, so then we go financial. Bruh make $40,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? You like, I don't know if I want that life. So are you at your 100% financially? And then you got to be honest, like, I ain't saying you should be making $1 million per year, you know what I mean, or month, like based on what you know, right? The energy that you have and the time that you spend on things daily, couldn't it be going towards things to where it could be making you profit daily, to where towards the end of your habits, you're going to look at it and be like, all right, currently I reached the peak of, from the knowledge that I have, the network that I have, the resources that I have, this is my 100% peak at this point. But then you got to go learn something new. Then you need new skill sets. Then you need a new network, right? Then you got to figure out a better system so that you can reach that next peak. So if you start looking at all these areas and be like, am I at my 100%? That's when you start being honest with yourself, right? And then that self-awareness allow you to start auditing and saying, all right, in order to reach that, what do I need to do? Who needs to go, right? And who needs to be added on to this list? And if you do that, right, then you start training yourself in all these areas, and then your focus of importance becomes growth. Because I believe too many people have too many insecurities, and they weren't told enough that the effort that they was putting in as child was good enough. So their insecurity and their need primary is significance, right? They need to be somebody because nobody told them that they were someone. So instead of having growth as the primary need, they chasing significance. But if you focus on growth, right, then maybe contribution and community, and then that gets you your significance, now your needs are ordered in the right way. So you're making decisions from the right place. I'm not doing it just to be significant. I want to achieve. I want to develop skills and educate myself. Then I can contribute to the community that I'm in, right? And that's going to give me significance. But if you have significance, I want to be significant. Then I want a community and I want them to like me just because I'm significant, right? And that's the way I'm going to contribute, and that's going to give me my growth. No, you have to reorder your needs. And when you come from an environment where you have a lack of, your needs become your wealth, right? So most people, their needs are their liabilities. But when you come from an environment of love, you got knowledge, you got foundation, you ordered as harmonious, you living right, those needs are taken care of properly. So now you focusing on achievement. What do I want to do? How do I want to contribute to society? You feel me? Now you can think and play in the playground of your imagination, but most people are stuck in the insecurities of their needs. They don't get the focus to their higher self.
That's a fact. I mean, I look at it like it's one of these things like you know, when you look at life, right? You got some people that, you know, are going to focus on how the situation is, and some people's going to focus on how they're going to make the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, just from a thinking big standpoint, like that's one thing that I realized. Like, if you look at like white people traditionally think differently, but especially like highly successful white people, their brain pattern is different, right? So it's like when you see Jeff Bezos, like when you see Elon Musk trying to go to Mars, right? Or they trying to build alternate realities, metaverse, and different things of that nature. Like, the way that they think is really limitless, right? It's really limitless train of thought, and that's something that's actually beneficial on a certain level. Like, a lot of times we think so small, right? We think so small that we can never really change our reality, and we definitely can't change other people's realities because our visions and our goals are just so small,
That's a fact.
right? And that's one thing I learned. Like, and that's why
Solve a bigger problem.
that's why I like Kanye, even though I don't think he's a mentally stable, but I feel like he's one of these people that,
What has he done that showcases he's mentally unstable?
what has he done?
Yeah.
I just feel like it's a lot of erratic behavior. That's just my opinion. But like I said, he's one of my favorites.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, he's all over the place. But
I'm being God's advocate, that's all.
I feel like, you know, when you really start to think in this limitless vibe, like everything changes. It's
Mhm.
like the movie.
That's a
You ever see the
fact.
movie
I
Limitless?
love that movie. It's one of my favorites.
Like that's a
That I
fact.
used to just walk. There's the instrumental on there called Happy Pills. It's like I used to just walk and listen to that all day long because I was always obsessed with being smarter, right? In all these different areas. But what you said got me to something. So what you're talking about is what we know as cosmic consciousness. So there's 3 states of consciousness, which is you can kind of look at 3 levels of thinking. You have simple, right? Which you can kind of look at as survival. And that's just your awareness of the physical world, right? I understand this is a building, that's a car, right? This is a couch. This is your simple awareness of the physical 3D reality. Then you have self, right? Who am I? I'm this observer having this experience, right? That's your self-consciousness that we have. Then we go to cosmic, right? And see, race keeps us in self-awareness, right? That's why we talk about double consciousness. I have to not only have the self-awareness, I have to be aware of how you view me because of your views towards me and how the world view me in this. So a lot of us get stuck in just self-consciousness. Then when you ascend, you go to cosmic. And cosmic is your awareness of the higher world, beyond self, your unity, right, of the universe, right? Those mystical states of consciousness. You look at those different people, they talk about doing ayahuasca and having these visions and going to India and Peru and, having this vision, I want to go to Mars and change the world. You talk about cosmic states of consciousness like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm going to create a nation within a nation. People that ascend to those levels, right? Those are people that exist particularly to create change on the planet, which means that what comes with them is going to be disruption. Because technology is a force of disruption. You create something new, it's going to replace a bunch of other different things. AI is a force of complete disruption. Creativity is a form of disruption. If you got that cosmic consciousness, you on the planet looking, what can I change? You like a kid, like, what's not here? Why is everything red over there? Look, can we change that to white real quick? Can we change that to black real quick? Like your whole goalpost is to disrupt. I don't like these rules. Y'all we got to sit on the couch. Can we stand on the couch? Why we got a couch anyway? Why I got to do things this way? So you maintain, and as a child, we come in with that, right? We come in with these questions of why. Why everything got to be like this? Why they got to be like this, Pops? Why got to be like this, Mom? Why we got to do this? Why we got to do that? And society tells us the answers and tells us to stop questioning, and we cut off from that cosmic consciousness. And now all we doing is we're stuck with either the consciousness of the physical world or our self-consciousness, right? And some people get to political consciousness, right? Or economic consciousness, right? I understand how the economics affect me in this world, right? And how I can create economics that affect this world and how my political vote or how this political person affects me and how their thinking is going to affect this world and how it's a trickle-down effect. But most people don't play in their imagination, and it requires a level of wealth to do that. I see a lot of Asian children, they come to this country and they have cosmic goals. They have goals that's based on their joy a lot of times. It's not survival goals. I need to get this job to make this amount of money. They about to go to school for 4 years to learn photography. You know what I'm saying? And they ain't even gonna be the greatest photographers. But this is what makes me happy, right? This is what I can contribute because that's the joy economy. And we don't get to play in the joy economy, right? We survive. And so my brother Keenan was the one who said that, I believe he said since, what year was it? But there hasn't been like no new job creation in like the last decade for real, right? And then when you look at the fact that AI is coming to steal jobs, right? And there needs to be a reskilling of America, but then it's going to create a bunch of new jobs. So back to that, the idea of like decolonizing the future is like we have to have our own ideas about the future.
Well, how do you think? Because it's like for me, right? I've always only thought on that. Would you say cosmic level?
Yeah, cosmic consciousness.
That's always been my vibe, right? That's always been my vibe. It's like I don't want to do something that has been done before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, let's take Investfest for instance, right? Okay, there's business conferences, right? But I'm not trying to get 1,000 people. I want to get 20,000
Right.
people.
I know you imagined 200,000 before.
So it's like, that's a crazy idea. Even the name festival, right? Like everything is just like, if we're not going to do something that has never been done, what's the point of doing it?
Mm.
Right? Because everybody has done a lot of things, right? But it's not just about making money. It's about really stamping your name in history. And I feel like, when you watch the movie Troy and Achilles, he told the kid, he was about to fight like this big warrior. He was like 8 feet tall. And the kid was like, yo, I would never want to fight him. Like, I would be scared to fight him. He said, that's why nobody's going to remember your name.
Yeah.
And I feel like that to me, spoke to me. Cause I understood that. Like everybody was like, yo, why would you do this? This is so risky. Da, 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 da. It's like, that's why nobody's ever going to remember your name. Not that you're doing something for history to remember your name, but if you're not trying to leave your name in history or leave something that you've done as a benchmark, now this is the bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like now we set the bar because we normalize things in real time. So when you look at something, it's like, okay, well, now 450 business vendors come every year, right? 20,000 people, which is 50,000 over the course of the weekend. That's how these festivals calculated, like how many people come every single day, right? Billionaires, highest level of not just our culture, but society, right, have come to a place in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta hasn't had anything culturally, annually, that was really relevant like that since Freaknik, right? That was 25 years ago.
Freaky
So-
ass.
That's a fact. So if you look at something
Yeah,
like that,
fatty,
and it's like, all right,
fatty.
you pull that off with self-funded,
Yeah.
right? These are all relationships that we just know and other friends and just making it's like,
So that's not state funded.
so technically that would be considered impossible to do, right? But it's like,
But each state, I believe, actually have funds when you bring value to the city.
the state definitely. I'm
Yeah.
saying it would be impossible to do just to do an event like that because it hasn't been done, not from our community, from anybody.
Okay, yeah.
Forbes
100%.
Forbes never did an event like that. They've tried to do an event.
They ain't
right?
got the culture.
I'm not even just the culture. I'm just saying humanity. Right? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, no, I'm just being
Up
honest
the
with
stakes.
you. But it's normalized because we can never fully appreciate. We can't appreciate things.
Like that. I got humanity.
We can't appreciate things in the moment.
Yeah. No, we don't appreciate nothing. When you look at Investfest and you look at your platform, and many platforms out there, it's a lot of, got to acknowledge the beauty of the times that we live in with so many people able to create these communities and do beautiful things. And the thing you got to acknowledge is how hard it is to do. On the outside, it's like you get a car delivered with a ribbon on top, and you just focus on how beautiful that car is. A person could have worked 10 years before that car was delivered every single day through all of their emotions, blood, sweat, and tears, through the impossible, through depression, through all of it. And they finally ready to purchase that vehicle, right? Everybody's going to look at the vehicle. The beauty was the process because that's what made that person who they were. The vehicle only represents, right, a product of that grit, a product of the effort and the intellect and the mindset, right, and the abilities and the gifts that they have being represented in reality. So when I look at Investfest, I look at the process. And if you want to understand how hard something is to do, try to do it.
Facts.
Facts. Try to do it.
Facts.
You go realize, it might be something special about these brothers because they is doing something I ain't seen done before, and it's something I definitely can't do.
Facts.
So for me, I get inspired when I see people do things I can't do. Man, I want to do that too, or I want to help, or I want to be a part of. I think that's the beauty. And I think that's why so many people show up. I think there's so many people who appreciate and understand the power of this moment, the time that we living in, the necessity for it. Because you are one of the founders, but this is bigger than you now. There's families that you affect that you don't know the names of.
For sure.
Right? And that's the beauty when somebody shows up and they like, Rashad, I don't know I exist. But you had this effect on my son that's now an entrepreneur that found direction in life, right? That learned some information. And I thought that he was going to be locked up, dead, or in jail. And now he coming talking to me about stocks.
Well, it's one of these things where we was in Ghana and we spoke to one of our friends in Ghana, and he was saying that before we knew each other, he went to Investfest because he wanted to he purchased a VIP ticket, right? He wanted to see it for himself. He's from Ghana. And he was hearing about this thing. He went last year and he was like, I just want to just experience this.
Mm.
And he was like, what caught his attention the most was not the celebrities, was not the performance, was not, any of the panels. He was like, he was walking around and he saw people with notepads. He saw people drinking coffee, handing out business cards with each other. He saw a marketplace in a sense, right? Of 20,000. He was like, he said, I never in life would ever think that I would see this happen,
Mm.
where 20,000 black people are interfacing with each other, communicating. There's no dysfunction. They exchanging business cards. Yo, I'm a lawyer. I do real estate. Let's connect. Or I live in Jersey. I live in Ohio. Da, 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 da. And it was like for him coming from the continent to be able to come to America and to see that. And then he was like, he's seen some people from Kenya.
Mm.
He's seen people from Nigeria, and they like, yo, yeah, I'm out here. And he was like, he just couldn't even understand it. You know what I mean? And I feel like going back to what you said, like your legacy, you can't write your legacy. Your legacy is written for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's most of the time it's written for you by people that you don't even know, right? Like this is something that you don't know what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Like there's people that's watched the program that was in college or that was in the streets trying to figure it out. And they sat down and they learned about a business or they learned how to buy real estate and it changed their life.
Mm.
That's a fact.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? This because I know this firsthand. This is people would tell me, like, yo, I figured this out and I bought a property and now I Airbnb it and now I'm investing in stocks and this should change my life.
Mm-hmm.
It actually saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think people take that for granted on how much, number one, how much it was missing. I grew up all my life, it wasn't there. So now that is more, right, common because this financial literacy movement has grown legs, right? People take for granted that, bro, just a few years ago, this was completely absent. All we had was entertainment and the arts. There was no science, technology, engineering, mathematics, economic, financial, intellectual conversations that was taking place, right, on mass stages, right, to where they like, wait a minute, black people like finances? Y'all like, I know y'all get money. I didn't know y'all like to keep money. Oh, y'all like building businesses? Y'all like having different high-level conversations? And it's like, yeah, but that goes to the leadership. I believe that good influence is good leadership. Bad influence is bad leadership. There are a lot of influencers out there. They don't care about the impact they make. But you can't be a leader without being influential, right? In some capacity, you have to influence people to get them to go in the right direction. And there's nobody in the entire world that should be able to look at Investfest and what you all have built and see negativity. Now, to that point, I want to ask you, what do you think you can do better?
Well, a few things, because you could always, there's a difference between constructive criticism and being negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Constructive criticism is seeing something that you think you can improve on, and I'll offer you input. I've given you input on your show.
Mm-hmm.
You can take the input or you can disregard the input.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you what to do. This is just my ideas. Now, what would be negative is for me to make a reaction video saying that I hate 19 Keys' show and that it's overrated and that, is leading people down the wrong path. Now, you're purposely trying to destroy something that you don't even have an intent in filling in. That's the crazy thing about it, right? People will they'll try to discredit you and take you off the playing board. I would respect it if it was a chess move where it was like, okay, I'm going to take 19 Keys out so I could be the next 19 Keys. I shouldn't use the respect. I can understand it because that's a strategic move. It's not something I would do, but I can understand it. Nowadays, these dudes, they'll try to take you off the chessboard just to see you off the chessboard.
Because then they don't have to compare themselves to somebody that's doing more.
But not even understanding that you leaving the chessboard is actually harmful for them.
Mm-hmm.
You've helped influencers. You've helped black men have credibility to speak. So it's like, all right, let's remove 19 Keys. Let's decredit him to the community. Okay, if he goes away today, I'm not benefiting from that. I'm actually hurt because now less people is going to even have faith. Less people are going to even want to be interested. I'm not going to get spillover, right? So I'm actually hurting myself. That's the interesting part about jealousy. a person will actually hurt themselves, right? In this process. They actually hurt themselves. Sometimes they actually kill themselves.
Mm-hmm. If you're thinking from a place of jealousy, you're already thinking short-sighted. You're not thinking long-term vision.
Exactly. But to answer your point, as far as, and this is feedback that even we just have internally, you'll always try to get better. So when you run in business, it's important to look to see what you can do better.
Mm-hmm.
You already know what you've done good. And that's how I always look at it. Like, it's like sports. Like, we won by 20. How come we didn't win by 30? How come we didn't win by 30? We did some things that came up short. So logistics, we hired a whole logistics team this year because that was an issue. As far as nobody should have to wait online for an hour to get into a venue, right? But that's because there was a logistics issue. So we said, okay, we have to actually put resources, and we hire a logistics team. We have early check-in. We have better communication with speakers, right? That was the issue. Like, some speakers wasn't fully communicated with. So now we have to have more resources on the ground, more resources that are making this a smoother transition process, right? As far as even drilling down and really making sure that education is even more attainable. So it's like, okay, now we got to have more workshops,
Mm-hmm.
more one-person presentations,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's something that we did. We have to adapt to the times. We got three things this year, workshops on artificial intelligence.
Mm.
Not 1, 3, because that's important. We need to make sure people understand this, right? Then the give back, like we've done Nipsey Hussle business grant, right? Shout out to Sam, shout out to Adam, shout out to JP. $100,000 pitch competition. That's something that we've never done before, and that was something that we wanted to actually incentivize the education process, but also actually be able to empower other people. And when you look at something like, we wouldn't put somebody's name on something if it wasn't directly blessed by the family.
Mm.
So we had to get the blessings from his family and work with his family. Like, we don't take that lightly. You're not gonna put somebody. I'm not gonna put Tupac's name on something. I'm not gonna just put you put somebody like Nipsey Hussle. He means something to not just the culture, but to entrepreneurs. When I look at Nip, I look at somebody who, to me, he gave me that entrepreneurship vibe and the hustle and motivate, even more than his music. I like the music, but I respect the entrepreneurship. I respect the hustle. I respect the grind aspect of it. So it's like, we felt like that was the perfect thing to have the Nipsey Hussle business grant pitch competition for Investfest. We got Don Peoples coming this year. He's going to have lending, up to $20 million of lending from his bank that he actually is operating, right, to actually be able to give loans in real time, right? We're going to have a variety of different things that, we rolled out. So yeah, the big names, of course, that's always going to be there. But how do we have more impact as far as give back?
Mm-hmm.
These are things. We got an HBCU ticket giveaway, right? We wanted to make sure that HBCU students was there. They might not be fully ready to activate on buy a home when they're 19 years old, but they need to be in a room where they can connect and be inspired and see somebody like you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, somebody might be a freshman in Morehouse. They might be willing to drop out. They might be, they don't know where they want to do with their life. You never know what that level of inspiration, that level of education, that level of motivation outside the classroom can do for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's important. So, these are all things that, we learn. And like I said, I feel like, when you set precedent, you're going to make mistakes. But that's because it's never been done before.
Right.
Right. So,
right. I mean, that's anybody that watches and sees somebody starting to do something that's new, right? To be negative about something that is a mistake or just part of the growing pains. I don't even think it's so much as a mistake as far as like things get better over time, right? We can look to certain companies that's been around for like 100+ years, 50 years, 20, 30, 40 years. They've been sued probably 1 million times. They messed up 1 million times. They still here to this day. I mean, Apple has been sued for doing just downright criminal things, and we're going to go buy an Apple phone, no problem.
No problem.
Amazon been sued
Meta.
for all kind of issues. Meta, they had to have a mental health, announcement, you know what I'm saying, in New York because of that. It's like these companies get 1,000,001 chances. You feel me? And we still going to support them and don't think about it.
Well, that's a good point. I hate to cut you off, but I really want to drill this down because it's like, as Black people, we are we have become familiar to deal with failure from white companies,
Right.
white people, white establishment, right? And we take it. So when McDonald's has a recall and they have fake meat, I'm
Right.
just throwing this out there, but I'm pretty sure that probably has happened. We don't stop eating McDonald's,
Not at all.
right? When Meta has a $100 million, $1 billion settlement with the government because
Right.
they sold our data to Netflix, that doesn't stop us from using Instagram or watching Netflix.
Mhm.
When Apple has to pay lawsuits every single year because they have purposely slowed down iPhones
Right.
and they have, purposely made it hard for Samsung users to connect with iPhone. This is documented.
Mhm.
We don't have a problem.
Humane Pen that just came out because they super recent. Rabbit, 2 physical AI, and they found out that it was just ChatGPT installed on there. They don't get called out, and then that's not going to affect that venture capital world for individuals like that getting funded
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Or even if they do get called out, that doesn't stop the flow.
Nah.
It's
They're
like
looking for the next one already.
you would crucify me for wearing pajamas. And I'm just being honest with you. Right?
Were those considered pajamas?
Some would say.
Pajamas.
Or your defining moment. You have an event with 450 business owners. Like that's the aspect that's not really talked about enough. That is Black Wall Street in a sense.
Right.
Millions of dollars are flowing. There's people that have changed their life, that have 10x their business from being in the vendor market.
Bro, let's
right?
be honest. Like, first of all, I don't want to hear nothing because we have 99% of the time we spend our money on entertainment. You know what I mean? We go to a concert where somebody say, you ain't shit, you not that nigga, I'll kill you, I don't care who you are. And we're going to spend all that money with them, enjoy it, go to the place, go home, relax, and live life. The moment somebody try to do something good, it's the time that we start auditing them and say that, no, you have to do it perfect. Otherwise, there's a problem. You get money from the people. Where are you every time that they're spending money on liquor, entertainment,
Right.
BS? You're not there. That's why I go back to the attitude thing, is that we only have an attitude when somebody's trying to help us, right? But when somebody's trying to hurt us or something that can hinder us or something that can distract us, just let that rock.
It's never the same aggression. It's like you said, if you spending $250 for a ticket, out of 3 days, you can't get value, then that's your problem.
Bro, people go to college, spend $100,000 and do nothing with a degree.
No.
You know what I mean? It's the initiative of the human being that invests their time and how they're going to take the initiative with the information or the opportunity to do something with it. You can't force people to get results, right? So for me, it's a whole mentality thing. Like, people literally, I think that was Robert Smith that said that the number one, thief of Black wealth is college debt, student loans. But we don't look at that as an issue that we really be like, wait a minute, let's pause on this for a second, because we're going to keep taking people to this funnel. And if that's the biggest robbery of Black wealth, how about we stop taking students that's not ready for it and we figure out another funnel to where we can skill them so that they can develop themselves in the world and be ready. But it doesn't make no sense that you don't have no guarantees when you go to college besides them giving you a piece of paper. There's no guarantees. I will give you a piece of paper and we're going to give you this funny looking hats and you go walk across like everybody else has. We might have some birds or might have somebody speak or something. And then, all right, going on. As long as you know them loans, you still got to pay. I need everything. There's zero guarantees in college.
But then because once again, we accept failure at the hands of white people. We have no tolerance with any level of shortcomings at the hands of Black people, though, right? We'll accept going to school for 4 years and paying $150,000 and being in debt for 40 years and not finding a job and pretty much ruining our lives. We'll accept that.
Paying on interest.
But the $250 that you spend and you get to see billionaires and you get to be around 20,000 positive Black people, your tipping point was that the acoustics wasn't up to par for the keynote address.
Yeah.
That's the deciding factor for you to go online and to bash it and to do a variety of different things, right? But that, once again, that speaks to us as a people, right? and it's one of these things. It's a bigger issue than just one event, but it speaks to now you start to see how difficult it really is,
Oh, for sure.
right? And you can't understand that until you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why so many people, the vast majority, people didn't know who Robert Smith was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't know who Don People was 4 years ago. People still don't know who Dave Stewart is. Dave Stewart is the second richest black man in America. He's worth about $4 billion. He could walk down Times Square right now, no problem. He could walk through any black neighborhood in America with no problem. Not one problem. There's a reason for that, right? Why am I going to subject myself to such low-level negativity, hatred, conspiracy theories? For what? I'm here to help. Right?
Speaking of conspiracy theories, I seen y'all at the White House.
But that was the vice president's house. But close enough. Close enough. Close enough.
I see y'all at the vice president's house. So the question that's on everybody's mind: do y'all now work for the Democrats?
Oh man, it's crazy because once again, that goes back to having an inferiority complex. We don't think that we're capable of being in any type of environment outside of what is normalized, unless we've sold our soul, unless we've taken money, unless we've but we can see Elon Musk at the White House and have no problem with it. We can see CNBC. Just think about this, for instance, right? We're a media company. We produce media content, right? Now, if you saw CNBC at Davos, would you think that was weird? If you saw CNBC at the Republican National Convention, would you think that was weird? If you saw him at the White House, would you think that was weird? But any of these places that you see EYL, there's going to be certain, not everybody, there's going to be a certain demographic that thinks is weird, right?
All right, so let me play God's advocate. I don't think it's weird. I think people don't know the process of how you get there.
Because now you have to be humble enough to ask the question. If you watch Market Monday, well, usually everything that we do on the week, we usually explain it on Market Mondays because that's the real time show. Earn Your Lead is the interview show, but Market Mondays is a real time show. We can kind of recap what we've done, so we usually explain it, right? But once again, it goes back to pride and ego, and your ignorance is going to lead to your downfall. You're not fully aware of what's happening, and you're speaking about things that you don't have any knowledge of, right? Folks, you're getting third-hand information. Somebody's telling somebody that's telling somebody that made a YouTube video, this is where you're getting your information from.
And there's no journalistic integrity whatsoever that exists. So 80%, right, of like Gen Z get their news from TikTok and like social media sources, but there is no journalistic integrity. So it's not like the person that's reporting the news has checked 5, 6 sources and vetted it to make sure that what they're now going to report is actually even true. And now that informs you, and it informs your attitude about a person, the world, an institution, or whatever, and you're operating off false information.
And I feel like...
But to get a direct question, a direct answer.
What?
Do you work for the Democrats?
We work for the Democrats. We work for ourselves, man, at the end of the day. But, I always said, for me, I would take an invitation to meet with Donald Trump. I would meet with the leader of the Republican Party. I forget his name, Mike something. I would meet with any Republican governor. We just haven't been invited. We never reached out to politicians. They reached out to us.
Well, y'all had RFK on the show.
He's independent, though, I think, right? And I think he leans to the left, even though a lot of his views are conservative. But yeah, exactly. We had RFK. They reached out to us. So I don't really get in. You can't even pay that.
What about Cornel West? Y'all had Cornel West on.
He didn't reach out to us. We don't reach out to politicians. That's our policy, right? We're not trying to court politicians. We've built the platform. You reach out to us. Take it or leave it, right? So RFK Jr. reached out to us. The vice president's office reached out to us, right? And then we've developed other relationships with politicians, and they've reached out to us. Cornel West never reached out to us. If he reached out to us, we would put him on, for sure.
What going to the White House, or to the vice president's house, is that the Black House?
I guess you could call it that.
So going there, what did you learn? What did you see? How did that affect you?
No, it was dope. It was a good conversation. We went there a few times, but the first time we went there was a small dinner, and it was black men. They wanted to hear from black men.
Mm.
They wanted to just hear from black men, like what's the sense of black men? What are we doing wrong? What are we, just us telling them our opinion. So it was us. It was Will Packer, Spike Lee, bunch of people. Roland Martin, Don Cheadle,
Don Cheadle,
Fat Joe.
Mm. Joe.
Shout out to
Fat
Joe, he
Joe.
cracked. I don't know how he got into black meat.
Right, black man, Fat Joe.
But he's close enough. He's close enough, I guess. Shout out to Joe, he
That's
cracked.
funny.
But I mean, we kept it real. We kept it real. And I feel like at the end of the day, why would you not voice your opinion? Why would you not? If you have an opinion, if Joe Biden said, "Yo, Keith, I want you to talk to me. Tell me your thoughts and your views." Why would you not do that? You're not going on a campaign trail for him, right? But if he said, I want to sit down with you, and there's plenty of people who. You think Malcolm? I've seen videos of Malcolm X talking to people that they would have never thought he would have talked to, talking to like white supremacists, right? Why not, right? But that's because I feel confident in who I am, right? I don't feel so weak that I feel like, oh, I just can't be around this person because I'm just gonna melt and I'm just going to just get sucked in a vacuum and now I'm gonna be, it's like a vampire. Like you don't feel confident in who you are. So that's why you can't go anywhere. But it's like, it's crazy. They don't want us to be in Davos, Switzerland with all the billionaires because that's Illuminati and all that. Might be, who knows? But they had no problem if we in the most toxic environment in the world. Any hood in America where there's drugs, alcohol, prostitution, running rampant, gang violence.
Strip club.
No, that's where we belong. That would be okay. Strip club.
What's the one in Atlanta called?
Strip club? What, Magic City?
Magic City.
There would be no problem. No issue at all.
So you can be in Magic City on Sunday, but not Davos on Saturday.
That's where you draw the line. You went too far then, right?
You could be at the trap house, but not the White House.
Nah, it's real shit.
I think when I look at those type of things, I understand them from multiple levels. People look at it in some ways as like, if you're a police officer, can you be a good cop because you have to take an oath? And people look at it that once you get into a system and you get into their funnel, it's because they believe that you're safe enough to not rattle the tree, right? That we're going to invite you here, but I don't want you to like make change. I'll listen to you for the purpose of listening to you, to figure out how we can navigate the mind of men who think like you, but not really so that we can actually activate change based on the ideas that you give us.
Well, but it's one of these things, you can't make somebody do anything.
No, you can't make,
right?
but
the
intention matters.
The only thing you can do is offer ideas, listen. And it's like, this is going to happen whether we're in the process or not. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. That's one thing I learned early. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Decisions are being made about your future, whether you're involved with it or not.
I agree.
So you might as well, at the very least, be involved in it, right? And it goes back to, once again, nobody controls us. That's the difference. We're not funded by anybody, right? We don't work for anybody. So that can be done where it's like, okay, I want you to do this, but don't say this because we have relationships with people. That's what people got to fully understand how business works, right? If you have a sponsor for an event, or if we have a corporate relationship, you're not signed to that person. You don't have to do what that person says, right? That's not how these situations work. Maybe if we have an event together, right, then we have to both mutually agree upon different things. That makes sense. But never in life would somebody have to tell us, because if that was the case, then we wouldn't be able to have a working relationship with you. To be completely honest with you.
I don't know why I'm getting no sponsors, man. I just get people to think.
But I'm just saying,
I ain't had a black person, white person, Chinese, Asian, Jewish.
There's a lot of people that would look at this situation like,
I'm just saying where the bag at. That's all I'm saying right now. Where my bag at? Where the radical bag at? Who got one of them?
Well, and
You
that's
feel
and
me?
that's the
Come
thing.
on, at me.
And that's the thing. So my thing is like, people love kamikazes, right? But who's there to provide for the widow? So what I mean by that is they want you to crash out for the sake of the culture. They're not going to pay your bills when you can't feed yourself, feed your family, right?
You know, we and you had this conversation early, you know, and it's just always keeping those values in mind.
And being who you are as a person, like this is who we really are. I'm not an extreme person. I don't go extreme either way. I've always been a pretty centered person. I'm not gonna be who you want me to be because you think I'm supposed to be a radical. I'm supposed to do like what you see.
I believe in silent revolutionaries too.
And I feel like I said,
I believe in, there's some people that need to be out front loud, and there's some people that need to be in the back working. You don't even know they're a part of something.
yeah.
I believe in, there should be a movement, mass movement around the world where, you know, you activate yourself. All of a sudden, you could have not been a revolutionary or a spook, and I'm just using revolutionary as a term that fits somebody who decides that they're going to use their role, their resources, their information, their knowledge to impact and create change, right? And maybe you wasn't like that. That's not why you got the job, but you realize while you was there that something's not right. And you like there's people that come and connect me, and people like, how you get in there and that? Because it's not the corporation per se that stamps 19 keys. Somebody that works for them be like, bro, I watch your show. I support what you do. I feel crazy not using my resources to assist. And that's how everybody should be. If you have a job, if you have resources, you have a network, whatever it is, platform, influence, right? Using in some capacity to realize your power. Because everybody got power in their position in some kind of way. And if we all be spooks and we all activate in whatever that means to you, then we got a world where everybody's a revolutionary in their way.
But then also I feel like, once again, I'm not explaining myself to people that lack vision. It's impossible. You just get frustrated, right? This game is a game of chess. And we know that, we got to make certain moves, open up certain doors, and have certain relationships so we can empower other people
100%.
that don't have those relationships.
So let me ask y'all, why did y'all work with one of the most radical revolutionaries in the game? Nah, I ain't even. So what was that ultimate decision? Because I give y'all a lot of credit. You know what I mean? You know, I'm somebody that was already building, right? Already had my thing. But partnering with you all was strategic for both of us, right? It makes the most sense. And for me, it was like, I've been doing this for a very long time, and a lot of people watch. Not everybody will actually help. Not everybody will stand next to you. So I'm like, how I'm going to find my tribe is who's ever going to stand next to me. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that I'm the most radical person in the world whatsoever. I think I'm pretty moderate comparatively, right? I'm waiting for the right resources. But when I think about people who stand next to it, I think that that's the true vision. That's the true integrity, right? Because at the end of the day, everything that I do is positive, 100% positive. Everything that I do is a factor of good, right, for the world. You know what I mean? Like, I'll customize and focus on the culture. But when somebody listens to the mindset or the knowledge and the education and the conversations and the platform, or go to the tours or the high-level club or whatever it may be, it is a factor of good for anybody that gets involved. So there's really no reason at all not to. And what you all do is you normalize it, because the thing is that we can expand certain things, but we be the ones that ostracize certain people. No, I'm not going to stand next to them. So the white people are like, oh, well, I guess they not cool then, right? But when we stamp certain people and we bring them in and we be like, man, come on, man, I got you, bro. Stand over here. It's good getting the picture, right? Now it lets other people know, like, no, they a part of the culture. You can't get us without getting them. And I think that's something that we have to do more, because we end up being our own oppressors. Them people don't even care. They ain't even know it was y'all that was hating on them.
Well, the thing,
It's usually somebody's black that's holding the door, right, and stopping you from walking in and telling everybody else that's in there, like, nah, we ain't rocking with them.
there's always critics, right? And until you can never do enough And what I've realized is that you've never done anything to help somebody until you help the person that wants to be helped. What I mean by that is you could give food money to 100 people. That 101 person, you just couldn't get to them, right? You haven't done anything because you didn't do anything for them.
Mm.
That's the reality of life,
I
right?
feel that.
So I feel like for us, right, when you talk like everybody talks about like collaboration, but who has really done it?
Right.
So when you look at Market Mondays, this is a show that we put together during the pandemic with Ian, and it turns into a cultural phenomenon. And we went on a world tour with this show. We did shows in Ghana and in the United Kingdom and Toronto, right? So with you, right? This is a partnership that turns into probably over 50, 100 million views on YouTube, right? Coming together,
100 million.
having it on the platform, promoting it, right? Standing next to you, right? Having you at every show that we've done, whether it's Royal Albert Hall, Investfest, whatever, right? Even if you look at Matt, right? This is somebody who was actually a mortgage broker, right? Putting him on, having him involved with different things and watching his transition grow, right? These are things that we've done multiple times, right? And like I said, most people have not done that.
Mm.
But they'll criticize or they'll say different things where it's like, okay, you since you're such a champion of this person, why don't you have a deal with them?
Mm.
I rock with you, yo. Like you said, I rock with you. Da, 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 I'm gonna support you. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. We should do something together. Well, you haven't done anything together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, most people ain't did nothing.
Like, you know what I'm
plan on
saying?
it.
So I
And-
look at it from you, like, I mean, you came to us with the idea and it was a no-brainer. I feel like, the voice that you have is needed for the generation and it fills a gap. Because in this world of everybody's just showing what they have as far as lifestyle marketing or is toxic or, relationship banter or, everybody's just copying. It's like once the financial literacy thing got popular, everybody wanted to kind of follow that mode. So everybody's a copycat, right? And it's like you standing and doing something that is not really like you can't replicate what you're doing. And that's why nobody's really copying it at scale because you can't have 3-hour conversations about physics and, race relations and aliens. Like you can't, that's difficult to do. It's easy to get in front of a mic and talk about, should your girl pay 50-50, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? anybody can have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you fill the void that was needed. So, when looking at, growing what we have as far as content, okay, we have finance shows, Earn Your Leisure, Market Mondays, pretty much got that covered, right? We don't necessarily need to keep adding. Now it kind of becomes repetitive. This is a breath of fresh air. And obviously, like, it's taken off the way it has, but then even outside of that, it's just a brotherhood and a relationship that we have with each other that regardless of a show, we still have a relationship.
Yeah, I was cool with y'all before the show. It just made sense in the sense of a bridge. Let's bridge these worlds together. Let's stop keeping them so separate, like, because they all merge. You know what I'm saying? And they all in alignment. The same people that's interested in intellect and consciousness and metaphysics and all these other different conversations, they need money. Right? We can't go to war without money. We got to get our finances straight, right? Like we got to, it's up to our generation to be the bridge to where, like, no, we communicating with each other. It's not like you Thurgood Marshall over here, I'm W.E. Du Bois, it's Martin Luther King, and it's Malcolm. It's like, no, we in the same room, having the same discussion, maybe from different perspectives, but we got the same war that we fighting, right? And so it gets me to my last point. And the last point is just about conflict resolution, right? How do you manage conflict resolution? Because I'm somebody that talks to everybody, and I feel like I'm always, figuring out conflict resolution, right? Because I believe that we have bigger enemies than each other, right? And I believe that the one thing that we haven't done yet is unify, and it's the hardest thing on the planet. So whoever accomplishes it deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. But there's always going to be conflict. We're young, it's new, we're maturing. There's not a foundation or a system that we're coming through to be like, all right, when this happens, we're going to settle this dispute this way, right? So we have to figure it out as men to just come together to be like, all right, let's stop this before it goes here, and let's continue to build. We have to check ourselves, right? We have to deal with other people, our own egos, their egos. There's so much that goes into that. So for you being in a position of leadership, how do you go about your process of conflict resolution?
You try to work out differences if there's issues, and at a certain point, you realize sometimes that you can't work out issues. So every person is not your brother.
Mm,
Every black person is not an ally to you, right? Jealousy, envy, these are traits that are colorless, right? We just gotta
mm,
be honest. And these are human traits. So what you realize is that if you can't resolve a problem, it's best to remove yourself from a situation. And that's okay. We all don't have to be in alliance. We don't need every single person to work together. We need people to work together. So you might work together in this silo. I might work together in this silo. We might work together to this silo. We might have some level of communication from other people that are in communication with all silos. But there's never going to be a time when every single person on earth is working together. Every single black person is working together. That's just not going to happen, right? But I think it comes from a maturity standpoint of understanding that a lot of people have trauma that are beyond you. It's nothing to do with you, right? So what I realized is that mental health is real. That's why I don't argue with people anymore. Once it gets to the point of I'm blocking your number, right? Because when I realize that there's no getting through to you, or that this has become a pattern of dysfunction because it's happened multiple times. You might say something, you apologize, and you say something, you apologize. Now this is like being in a relationship. It's like being in a toxic relationship, right? I'm removing myself from that situation because I'm not the person that can help you, right? I'm not your spouse. Like I'm not with you 20 hours a day. I'm not sitting with you. I'm not taking you. You probably do need therapy. You probably do need to have a more advanced conversation. But me trying to play that mediator is only going to weigh on my psyche. It's going to bring down my vibe. So I'm removing myself from that situation, right? So because it's like, what's the alternative? We can just keep going back and forth and not agreeing on things, and eventually it can turn violent. And that's always an option as well, but that's not productive. Nobody wins in that situation, whether it's physical violence, whether it's internet violence, whether it's verbal violence. Like, we live in a time where men are more emotional than women, right? And people, they treat social media, or they'll treat, things like their diary, right? And they go on and they'll say a variety of different things. And it's like, well, okay, did that solve anything? It might have made you feel better in that moment. But once again, that more speaks to your insecurity as a person, right? So it's like, as far as conflict resolution, the best thing to do is have a conversation and try to figure out what the differences are. Hopefully that leads to an issue being solved. Sometimes that does not lead to an issue being solved because there's still issues and it still pops up. The next best thing that you can do is remove yourself from the situation, right? There's no harm, no foul. I don't necessarily have to be the best friends with you. We don't agree on things, right? I see the world one way, you see the world another way. How I view you is one way, how you view me is another way. You think that you don't agree with something that I'm doing, I don't agree with something that you're doing. Instead of us battling each other, because that's going to lead to a real problem eventually, right? The best thing that we can do is walk away from each other. This is like a relationship. Men and women, the same thing, right? You try to work it out with your spouse, your fiance, your girlfriend. You try to work it out before you go different ways. Sometimes it does not work out. That's okay. It's better to just go your separate ways. yo, have a great life. I'm gonna have a great life, as opposed to staying in a household and then you verbally fight with each other. And then somebody's gonna end up getting hurt. That's a perfect example of what, even with men, right? Like if you ever been in a toxic relationship, you've been in a household, it's gonna something bad's gonna happen. The best thing that you can do is remove yourself from that household. The best thing that I can do if I'm in a relationship with somebody and we can't see eye to eye is remove myself from that relationship. That's it. So, that's my thoughts on conflict resolution, is that it should never lead to a point where there's verbal attacks, physical violence, tearing somebody's name. Like, that to me that's more of an immature, insecure way to go about it. Especially if it's not a real problem. We got a real problem, then 9 times out of 10, we're not even gonna speak it anyway. When we see each other, it's gonna be a problem. But it ain't no real problem. Like most of the time, on any level, on the internet, on the streets, it's never really a real problem. Most of the time. 90% of the problems is not real. It's because, I don't like the way you looked at me type shit. Or you said something that I didn't agree with behind my back and somebody told me, or it came back to me, or you know try to talk to my girl at a party. I wasn't. It ain't. Is that worth losing your life over? Probably not. But in the heat of the moment, that's what it comes down to. Like it ain't. Very few times is it real issues. Like somebody stole $1 million from you. Somebody kidnapped your kid. Somebody ran in your mom's house. These are real issues that happen, but that's not the majority. Most of the time, when you really look at this shit, it's petty. You wearing these sneakers. I had the sneakers first. I don't like the way you trying to ruin my vibe. You trying to bite my style, type shit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was looking at the founders of the Constitution. They was all like their late 20s, early 30s. And I'm like, how did these men be able to sit down and decide that this is how we about to govern and rule our future? They just sat down, locked in for like 30, 60 days. And so let's come up with the rules. Let's go set the foundation for the future. You know what I mean? And they argued with each other throughout the process. Probably damn near fought, right? Bickered back and forth. But they didn't leave until they had this Constitution done. And I believe it's something that we can learn from, because what would have kept you in that room and in that process is thinking about something that's bigger than yourself. I don't like this, Nick, but let's get this done, because if I just stick through it and we get this done, this gonna benefit my family, all families, for the rest of the time. And America is still being governed by that same Constitution, more or less, right? So I think about our positions and how, if we really want to take these positions serious, right, there has to be something higher than ourselves that guides us to be like, I'm not going to do this because this is more important. And I believe that's why it's so easy to have conflict, because we don't have common vision, right? We don't have common values. The most important thing to us is ourselves, right? This is my movement, this is your movement. Nothing is bigger than that. And it's like, damn, there's actually stuff bigger than that. And if we had that as a common goal, it's a reason a Malcolm and a Martin would sit down, because the common is our people. The common is freedom. The common is like liberation. But it's really thinking about all the time, what's that commonality? And yes, during war, there's many different strategies that you can go about taking. I just want us as melanated men to think about the future that we could have if we learn to move in alliance and have a cooperation and come to agreement. Agreement does not mean that, y'all like each other. People, wars, there are treaties and there's agreements and there's pacts that had nothing to do with y'all liking each other. It's understanding that something is bigger, right? And that's usually the future. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, this is going to be better for our people. I'm going to lose so many men on this side, so many soldiers on this side. We go fight, we go do this. This is going to be bad for the culture. This is going to be bad for everything. So How about we come down and sit with a treaty? How about we have a pact? How about we take some sort of oath or something that's bigger than ourselves? And I think what we have to challenge ourselves is first to think. Think about that one thing that's bigger than ourselves. And then that is the thing that we have a commonality and build a bridge about. Because everything else under that, we go war about. But up here, it's a reason that the Blood and Crips have come together. It's a reason that the Muslims and Christians have come together. It's a reason that any group of people who have a common cause and vision that's bigger than themselves, it'll be bigger than their faith, their nationality, their business, whatever it is, and be like, yeah, all right, for the sake of this, I'll find harmony and alliance, and we'll move forward based on this agreement. And therefore, we can run and rule and control the future because we are in such beautiful positions that it's too much at stake, right? To allow the ripple effect of what comes from that disharmonious relationship that we have with each other because we're not thinking about something bigger, which is the people. The people are the ones who suffered the most when the leaders war. Right, and there's so many families, young men that's looking up to us, young women that's looking up to us, and the ripple effects of all the families that we're going to be able to affect. Sometimes I wish I didn't have a heart to want to solve things. Sometimes I wish I was just all war, all bull all the time. But I've seen so many different wars growing up. I've seen so many people die. I think I lost 10, 12 homies before I was 19 years old. So I got people that didn't die that I haven't even had grief over. I have people that die while they still living because they're not who they used to be. And they could have been a great leader and they could have been a great contribution to the world. And I know people that took out other people's sons and daughters and all of it was pointless. All of it. So it's like, what is a higher degree? And when you think about the people, right, that's always something bigger than self. How is this going to affect the people, right? And I think that if we come together, because on that Constitution, it starts off with we the people. We have to have a common oath. We have to have a preamble. We have to have a constitution, right? And then therefore, we have a way to solve all conflicts for something bigger than ourselves. But I want to thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
This was a dope, beautiful, powerful conversation. And I just want people that's sitting out there that's listening to think about how you want to add. You know, I know, like Rashad, like myself, and other people, we're not looking for more followers. We're looking for leaders. You look at this thing and be like, man, I can run this part for you. I can run this. I can run this. I had the epiphany the other day. I said, you know, we talk about college dropouts and things of that nature, but really, those were all a whole lot of leaders there. They got a lot of skill sets that I can utilize, that we can utilize. You can run a whole organization for me and create your own job, and I got the platform for you. I want people to look at what we're doing and see what you can add. You know what I'm saying? Like, love it, don't hate it, right? Contribute to it so that we can build together, be an addition, not subtraction. You don't have to understand it, but reach out. Now, we're not going to be able to get to everybody. That's where patience come in. That's where understanding the process. But I have so many people over the last month been reaching out and say, bro, I can lead this, I can lead that, I can lead that. Because I don't want you to be driven by money because you're only going to do as much as I pay you for. I need you to be driven by the passion and the love for it, right? Because then you'll do that forever. And you're going to do way more than I can afford. And we're going to create something way bigger than money can provide. So I want those people that's going to be showing up to Investfest, right? Collaborate with each other. This person got a platform, you got a skill. Figure out how you can collaborate and contribute to each other, right? Leading up to Investfest, and I love it because it's so beautiful that it's, you know, the only place I ever went to that had that many beautiful Black people shining in such a peaceful, harmonious place for Savior's Day, right? And so I'm like, yo, y'all understand how beautiful that is just going to an environment. There's 25,000 people that's there for the same reason, right? They want to grow. They want to build wealth. They want better health. They want better connections. They want a better America. I feel like a politician now. So, this is 19 Keys. And thank you to my good brother Rashad, Bilal, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace, family.
Peace.
I got a question for you. What does your cabinet look like? What is it that you're taking in your routine that's keeping you high level? If it's not our products, then whose products are you taking? And if it's no products, then that's a problem. Y'all seen our commercials for Gold Water, right? You've seen it all over high-level conversations. You come to the show, you grab your bottle, people give us the best testimonials on the planet, and we got people on the go. The thing about Gold Water is it's not our only product. We have products like the vitamin C moss. We don't naturally produce vitamin C, so we got to get it in other forms. So therefore, especially during wintertime, we are able to keep that immune system functioning high. Let's say if you just want pure moss. This is just pure moss. I'm talking about a superfood, the best on the planet. And not just from anywhere, because you never know where people actually getting their moss from. I ain't never seen them take a trip to Jamaica. See, we get ours tested, right? To make sure that you're getting the highest quality, pure version of it, and you're getting those minerals in an over-chemicalized world. We got Smart Moss Gold, right? That Smart Moss Gold is like a Viagra for the brain. You ever find yourself when your brain feels like it's low? You tap one of these and your brain gonna feel high level. Yeah, and women love a sapiosexual, so when those brains are popping and those ideals are running, you stay tapped in. You gotta make sure you stay safe out here. There's all sort of viruses and diseases that's running around this world, especially during this time. If you're traveling, make sure you spray this on the orifices throughout your body to kill any of those viruses or any of those things trying to invade you. Make sure y'all tap into goldwater.com so next time somebody asks you what's keeping you high level, what's keeping you young and healthy and wealthy feeling. And now we can take some of that credit for it over here at goldwater.com. Make sure you keep your health journey running. It's a marathon. Peace.